All right, let's pick it back up with the next story. Our continued look about the ways that Donald Trump is going after the media and free speech. And as I said a couple moments ago, next week, or this weekend, next week, my next piece in my series about the technocratic Trump information administration is going to look at some of this attack on the Pentagon press corps, and then, of course, different things that Trump is doing to try to intimidate and consolidate the media. And you know what I think is really sad about this? Let me just digress for a moment. What I think is really sad about this is that because of the obvious deficiencies, the obvious guilt of the corporate mainstream, or as I prefer, deadstream media, not too many people have sympathy for them. So when Trump does something which is shown to us in the form of, look, Trump's making fun of the mainstream media, he's attacking them in this different way. A lot of people, a lot of so-called truthers, freedom fighters, just justice activists, whatever you want to call yourself, are like, yeah, look, Trump's really sticking it to the man. He's sticking it to the corporate deadstream mainstream media. And it's like we celebrate that as if it's a win for us. On one hand, again, it does feel good to see somebody call out the corporate media, but that doesn't mean where he's saying, and we need to embrace the independent media. Sure, he will embrace MAGA independent media, the mainstream alternative media, and invite them to the White House for Epstein binders, or to hold an Antifa roundtable. But those people are all pretty much, I consider, propagandists. Nick Sorter, Andy Ngo, these other people, maybe they've done a good thing here or there, but for the most part, they're just establishment hacks that just repeat the mainstream establishment talking points. So Trump can kind of speak against the corporate media, and then he's like, see, and then we're going to welcome in the independent media, which is really just pro-Trump media. And for all we know, based on recent leaks from WikiLeaks and elsewhere, these people could be the folks that are getting paid $7,000 per post to promote pro-Israel things. The point is, I don't think we should get stuck in this dichotomy, or this binary of, we know the corporate media is up to no good, so when Trump attacks media and the freedom of press and freedom of speech, we celebrate it like it's a good thing for us, because that's not necessarily the case. And this Pentagon story, I think, is a great example, because if you haven't heard, I've been covering it, but if you just missed it somehow, Trump's Department of War, again, that's what they want to call it, Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of the Pentagon, has announced and is now implementing new measures for the Pentagon. And they say this is to reduce leaks. They were talking about wanting to make journalists take lie detector tests. They were limiting access to where the journalists could go. And again, I've said this last week. On one hand, I understand from their perspective, of course, they're not going to let people roam the building because they don't want people to develop sources. They don't want people to talk to military officials. They don't want them to do their job. And so there's always this push and pull from the empire that wants to suppress the truth, and the people and the press that's trying to get the press out, right? Get the truth out. So of course, they're going to try to limit what people have access to. But generally speaking, as this article here, the last days of the Pentagon press corps, from The Atlantic says, I've been evicted from a building I've covered for 18 years. I'll keep doing my job anyway. This is from a reporter at The Atlantic, and just describing the last couple of days as they were packing up their bags and their boxes and leaving after a 21-year career at the, she talked to a police officer who'd been there for 21 years. She'd been there for 18 years. So there's been this history, this precedent set since the 60s of having the media in the Pentagon and having a space where the media could broadcast live from and could ask questions. And of course, leaks are going to happen. That's the nature of good journalism, is people develop sources. They get the sources to talk to them off the record, on the record, and the government whines about it and tries to find ways to shut people up. So there is that cat and mouse push and pull game. But now that Pete Hegseth is kind of stepping in the way of that and making it more official and saying you have to sign this, essentially a loyalty oath, saying you're not going to talk about things we don't give you permission to talk about. So that means even unclassified information. Let's say that one of the journalists did sign this and they decide to stay in the Pentagon, and then some soldier or general or secretary or somebody in the Pentagon has some information they want to leak, which is good for truth, maybe not good for the military. And people getting this thing confused, thinking that they're the military. And so if leaks are bad for the military, they must be good for the people. No, we want to hold the military and these so-called leaders' feet to the fire. And we do that by getting